Won't you take me home? Give me wings to fly. We can run away. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me home and give me wings to fly?
In this video I am going to make my own 48 volt 25 amp hour LFP battery for my e-bike, the prime mover on Rigzy, simply because that battery is about 4 years old now and it's not holding charge properly. I'm only getting about half of the energy available out of it while I'm riding, and then it just cuts off completely. So I have ordered all the stuff and it has arrived. I'll flip you around and I'll show you what I've done so far and what I still have to do. I'll explain it and show you. Let's go. So I have gotten all the battery cells. I'm going to do a 16 string 3.2 volt wide in series to give me 48 volts. I actually ordered 2 extra cells, just a cheaper deal by doing that, and I've got 2 spare if something should happen. So what I've done is I've actually already gone through, and with the multimeter I have already checked all these and I've written what it is on there. So the charging current for these is 3.65. I have a power supply here. I'm going to just do one to begin with to make sure, because I've never actually used a power supply before to charge cells. This is the first time I've actually made my own battery kind of thing, you know, sourcing all of the components and putting it together. I've been busy watching YouTube tutorials and stuff. I think I've got a pretty good idea. So without any further ado, I'm going to connect this one up to here. I'm going to set this to 3.65 and maximum charging voltage of 5 amps, which is this one. This one here. It comes preset with a few things, so I'm going to do that one there. Anyway, let's go. Okay, let's turn this bad boy on. Switch at the back. And we want this set, the voltage. Hang on, got to turn it on to set the voltage, do we? On 3 point... Yeah, what's going on there? 3... we got a... What's going on here? Why isn't that setting? Hang on. Okay, so you're not meant to have these connected while you're setting up your power supply. So let's bring this down to, hope you can see that all right, 3.65 charging voltage, 3.65. Good thing I'm using one of the spare cells, huh? Before I bus bar all these things up and do it in parallel, one complete charge. All right. Okay, so to change the current setting on this, which is the amperage, I need to do what is called a short. So I've had to turn this power supply off, put one of the bus bars for the battery system that I'm going to wire up from the positive to the negative, and then it says turn the power supply back on and then adjust the current limit, apparently. So let's see if it works. It's not working. Hang on, turn the power supply on. All right, hang on. That's what that is there. Got to turn it on there, right? Now it should move up. Yep, there it goes. We want to take it right up to the maximum, which is 5 amps. Keep going. Oh, back. Which is 5 amps. Right. We've adjusted it. Remove the short circuit and connect your load to the power supply. Well, that seems pretty easy, right? Get off there. All right, so it's set at 365, which is maximum charge for these things. I've got it on between 0 to 16 volts with a maximum threshold of 5 amps, so it's all set. So let's see how we go. Let's connect it up, positive and negative. Okay, so it's putting in 5 amps
and it's saying that this battery is at 3.33 charge voltage. 3.34. So once it gets up to 3.65, that'll be finished. I'll turn it off and I'll check it with a multimeter again. And if I'm happy with that and I haven't stuffed anything up, I may do all the bus bars through the rest of the system and charge them all up in one go. So let's see how long this takes. All right. Okay, folks, it says it's reached 3.65. I've disconnected it from the battery. I've got my multimeter here ready to go. Let's turn it on to volts, DC on the reader. Now, let's do this so that you can actually see it as well. Otherwise, now, am I going to do that? Go that way, put that there, put this up so you guys can see it, hopefully, so we can all see it, so it doesn't fall over. That'd be good. It's going to fall over. Well, lovely. Try this way. Yeah, that'll have to do. Okay, let's see if it worked. Positive, negative. 3.12. Okay. That didn't really do it right up to 3.2, did it? 3.12. All right, let me put everything back on again and see why it's done that. Okay, now if I've turned it off and then turned it back on, so I don't know if it's going to hold the settings for the amperage. Oh yeah. Okay, so it says 3.41, but it jumped up to 3.65 a second ago. That's why I thought it had fully charged, but clearly it hasn't. So let's keep going. All right. So I just Googled it, right? Not this particular power supply itself, but possibly I should, in regards to will this turn off by itself once it hits 3.65. And it did say 3.65 and 5 amps, but the green light was still on, so, and the red light, so it didn't actually stop. Okay, so here we are once again, but this time it actually has turned the green light off, but I was looking at it down on an angle and it looked like it was still lit. So it says 3.65. I'm assuming that it doesn't charge it to 3.65. It just gets close to 3.2 volts or 3.2 volts because that's what these batteries are. But to charge them, you need a charge voltage of 3.65, I suppose. That's what it is. So without any further ado, let's turn it off and check it again with the multimeter. Volts. Hey. DC. Okay. Here we go. Come back here, you bastard. Positive, negative. 3.19. So yeah, that's 3.2. Okay. Well, that only took about 2 minutes to charge that one cell up. So that's pretty cool. All right. Turn that off. So, taking that into account, I think I will, because it would charge so quickly, I'm going to parallel all of those batteries together with the bus bars and just charge it all in one complete go. And it should only take a couple of hours. All right, let's do that. Okay, so unfortunately, I did not order enough bus bars to be able to charge the whole thing in one go. So I've broken it up in two. I've got 9 cells here and another 8 there, which would have been 9 and 9, but I practiced on that one cell by itself. So let's do all this up parallel wise, and then let's just charge this lot up. All right. Okay, so I've only done those up finger tight, so now we'll use the ratchet just to do them a little bit tighter. Doesn't have to be real tight, but tight enough that the charge goes right through. Okay, now going by the tutorial that I watched and the comments underneath it about how to wire up, it's called top balance. So that's what I've done. As stated to you, the batteries came. I'd already, straight out of the box, I'd gone through the multimeter, and most of them were around about the 2.9, 2.8 sort of stuff. Some of them were 3.01. So top balancing them means all of them have exactly the same voltage at the end of it. And then you can wire up your BMS, and then you can just let your BMS sort it out, basically, over a period of a few months, what the capacity will end up being. So in this tutorial, the tutorial I saw, he had two little bands off the end here, and he was just connecting the power supply to that. But I read in the comments, it's better to go diagonally. So this is the positive one at the front. So you would connect, say, a positive one here, and instead of connecting the negative here, you would connect it over here at the back. So it's doing a diagonal like that. And that's what we're going to do. All right. All right, let's turn her on. 3.65. The positive, I'm not going to bother putting these on the end. I'm just going to connect it straight up to the bolts. So that's positive, that's positive. Make sure it's on good. And here comes the negative, and it should just start. There we go. 3.23, 5 amps. Let's see how long this takes to get up to 3.65. All right. Oh, hang on. What is the time? The time is 1:10. Okay, it's been 11 minutes and we're up to 3.3 volts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, all this front side here, these bands here are positive and at the back is negative. So I'm just going to go through, they actually do have a little positive imprinted, like an indentation on all of the top of the bolts, and the negative has them as well. But to make it easier for me later, when I'm connecting these bus bars up in series, I'm going to just paint the top of these ones the positive black, so it's easy for me to see later.
Okay, so I've had a change of plans. It was going to take a couple of days to top balance all of those batteries. Using the parallel method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down into 4S, so 4 cells, which will end up, I'll wire them up, bus bar them up in series, so it'll be 12 volts ish, whatever, and I'll charge them at 5 amps. I'll charge them to a top of 3.55 volts, so there'll still be a bit of a gauge there. And then I'll do that through all of them. There'll be how many sets of 4 to get to 16? 4 fours, 16. Yeah, 4 sets of 4. And then, and then I'll disconnect everything, and then I'll put it all in parallel again for the last 100, whatever that is. All right, let's go.
Okay, so I've got 4 cells in series, and I need to change this to 3.55. But I need to multiply 4 cells times 3.55, which gives me a total of 14 volts. So I need to not change this to 3.55, sorry, change it to 14 volts, and then that 14 divided by 4 gives me 3.55. And then that's that gauge. Once all these series configurations are series charged to 3.55, then I'll parallel the whole block together again and just parallel charge that last little increment and get them all Mickey Mouse. All right, let's try that. Okay, the time is 2. it is set to 14 volts and it's still on 5 amps. Haven't changed any of that. So now all we need to do is connect it up. Turn it on first. Oh, it is on. Okay, it's already on. All right, let's just connect it up. So we've got positive here, bang, 1, and negative there, 2. And we've got a charge current of 5 amps and we're at 12.7 volts. So if I have this correct, I made a mistake before with that cell. Once it is fully charged, even though the first cell, the single cell I was charging said 3.65, the amps hadn't changed. So apparently when it's fully charged, these amps go right down, even though it said 3.65. At least that is what I'm led to believe. Let's see. All right. Correction. 4 cells times 3.55 equals 14.2 volts. Sorry. So there's a couple of reasons why I am charging 4 cells at a time. First reason is my power supply does not go above 36 volts. Now, if you times 16 cells times 3.55, you get a total of 56.8 volts, which is too much for my power supply to handle. So what I've done is I've done it in 4 cells. So 4 cells times 3.55 is 14.2 volts. Now, if I bugger it up, I'm only going to bugger up 4 cells, right? I'm not going to bugger up the whole block. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 4 in series, charge them to 3.55. I'm going to do 4 lots of 4. Then I'm going to stick them all back together again and parallel charge the whole thing as one block, right up to 3.65. Do right. Okay, so this is how the battery box is currently set up. So there's the 15 amp hour e-bike battery. Hang on, let me just zoom out a bit. The Minghe MPT 7210A boost converter changes it from 12 volts up to 48. Couple bus bars there and some other stuff I'm going to have to move around because the other battery, which is over here, this battery here takes up a lot more room. So I'm in the process of, I've crimped up the terminal leads and wire leads for the BMS, so I'll be putting those on next. There's the BMS there. I need to lengthen some of those cables. They're not long enough because you got your negative here and your positive here. So I need to make those cables longer, which I have right here. Do right. Okay, so I've just gone through and put all the wires from the BMS on, and I have run through the placement of them with the multimeter, and a couple of these had not been crimped well. Now, if I hadn't have gone through, and it is suggested to do, and check with the multimeter, you know, you go from the first red one, it should be 3 point something, and then you go up in threes right up until the very end, which will be over 50 volts. Now, I think it was number 4 and number 9. I hadn't crimped them well. Now, if I hadn't checked that, I would have been fucked. Anyway, food for thought. Got to check it. All right. Okay, so just zoom out. I've got an XLR or whatever they're called, little 3-pronger there, and I've lengthened the this one here, the P minus. This gets connected to the negative electrode of the battery, and then you plug the sampling wires in, which is this thing here, and then you've got to take some measurements. So basically that's all I've done. I ordered this on Amazon. Try and leave all the links for things that I've purchased to help me along the way with all this. All right, let's see how we go. Okay, folks. I have hooked up the Bluetooth, the correct one this time, that came Unoriginally, with that BMS, they forgot to put in this Bluetooth dongle. And because it's come from China, and it's going to take at least 2 weeks to arrive, I ordered another one from a company which I won't tell you the name of, but speaking to the guy, he said, yeah, they're all the same. The Bluetooth dongles are the same. Well, they're not. They're different bloody fixtures. Anyway, I got my refund back from that, and then today this Bluetooth dongle arrived from China. I've hooked it all up, and I will show you all the settings, how I have set up the BMS once the Bluetooth dongle has been connected. So this is a 48 volt 16S, meaning 16 cells, all connected in series, to give us a total of 48 volts. So each cell is 3.65 fully charged, and if you go 3.65 times 16, that is your maximum charge voltage, but you want to do it at 3.6 to give you a little bit of a gap there. Anyway, I'll explain a little bit more about this as we're going forward, but as you can see, it looks really messy. I've got to clean it all up. I have a blue shrink tubing wrap to go around it and then heat it up and it'll shrink in nice. I've got some double-sided 3M tape to put this to the battery with. As spoken about before, this is an XLR input connection, and the way I've got it rigged up in the battery box on Rigzy at the moment, all I have to do is rig up the other end of the system that I already have there once I've maneuvered everything around, because this battery is a lot bigger than the other one. 25 amp hour battery. The battery that's in Rigzy at the moment is 15 amp hours, so I know it fits lengthways. That's why I've done this lengthways instead of doing 8 and then 8, sort of 8 and 8. I've done it lengthways, so it fits in the box, and I can fit the other Ming-He. This is the one from the Magnum, but I've got the other Ming-He MPT7210 already in Rigzy, ready to go. But I need to change the settings because this one that's in Rigzy is set for lithium ion, and this is lithium iron phosphate, also known as a LifeP04. So I need to change all those settings as well. It is a bit of a headache, but I will take you through that as we go. Do right. Okay, so I've tried to neaten everything up a little bit there before I put the blue shrink tube sock on there. I have put an Anderson plug on there and all I need to do now is double check that that's how I've tightened these up properly, nothing's loose, and then I go back to the rig today and I wire it all in, take the old battery out and wire it all up. Let's do that. And here's the Bluetooth dongle, which will be on the outside of the shrink tube. So every video I've watched on making these batteries, they have always just put the BMS underneath the shrink tube. But I Googled it, or I got ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, no, it should be on the outside. But I'm just going to go with, I like it all nice and neat. If all these other people that have made these batteries are putting their BMS inside this shrink tubing here, then so be it. We'll give it a whirl. All right. Unfortunately, I have gotten the wrong size shrink tube, so I'm going to have to leave it. I'll just chop up some of this shrink tube, put it across there, tape it down for now until I get the right size. All right. Okay, so this is what the battery looks like now. Now that I've put that battery in there, as stated earlier, I forgot to get the right sized shrink tube. So I've ordered that. Oh, sorry, I will order that later today. This is a Daily Smart Bluetooth BMS. I think it's got a 40 amp capacity. It's a 16 stringer. Now, what I was saying before, when you need to test all of the little crimped leads that go into each cell, you get your multimeter or your digimeter, and on this thing here you've got a black wire coming out, so you would stick the negative of the multimeter into the opposing side of that, into the black one, and then every one after that goes for the positive on the multimeter, the pins. And it goes up in increments of 3 because all of these cells are 3.2, 3.65 fully charged. So the first one would be 3 something, the second one 6 something, and then you add 3.2 or whatever it is you've top balanced these cells at, you would add those in increments of that cell right up until the 16th. And that is how I found out that 2 of the cells had not been, the leads had not been crimped on there properly. So without doing that, you can stuff the whole thing up. So here it's very tight fit, and I've got the MPT 9210A in there, which is a boost converter, which brings it from 12 volts up to 48. And what I wanted to tell you, and I've just shoved foam in here and everything, and a little bit of foam there so it doesn't move sideways or up and down. What I wanted to tell you is with e-bike batteries like this one here, you've got your pins here, right? And that slides into your base frame of your battery. Now, and then over here, you've got power in for when you want to charge it via the 240 volt mains. So you would think under, logical circumstances that you have power in here and power out here, and they are on 2 separate cables. Well, no, they're not, because e-bike batteries are only charged and discharged through the one cable. So what I mean by that is just this. So from I have the solar panels from the prime mover and the caravan module charging the massive 240 amp hour LifeP04 in the module. And from there, when I connect this to the Rigzy's module, the module in here, I trickle charge this e-bike battery from the battery in there. So it gives it a more steady charge as opposed to just charging this from solar. So what that means is I have the power from the Rigzy module coming into a bus bar here, and from the bus bar I have that power coming into this boost converter here, this Ming-He MPT 9210, and that brings it up over to 48 volts. And from there I have that coming into this battery here, and at the same time the controller for the Bafang, the electric motor. So these are going into the same power that's coming out of this Ming-He boost converter. I don't have 2 separate things, if you know what I mean. I don't have power coming in here and then power coming out here. It's just one cable for that battery and one cable for this controller for the electric bike, if you know what I mean. So we've got power coming in to charge the battery, and on the same line we have power coming out. So this little Anderson plug here has 2 sets of cables coming in, or coming out of it I should say. One of them is directly into here and the other one is directly into the e-bike battery. Hope you understand what I mean. That is basically what happens. You cannot there's no such thing as a battery, e-bike battery, having a power in and a power out side. Even though it looks like that, right? It all comes into the one cable. So it's just power in and power out. And contrary to popular belief, folks, you cannot charge and discharge an e-bike battery at the same time. What actually happens is the power coming in to the e-bike battery and the draw coming out is split up. What I mean by that is the power coming into the battery doesn't actually hit the battery really per se at all. What actually happens is the electric motor senses that there's maybe 100 watts of solar coming in. So it uses whatever it needs to... So you've got 150 watts of draw coming out of your electric motor as you're riding it. And there might only be 100 watts of solar power coming in. So it only takes
50 watts worth of power from the e-bike battery, and the rest comes from the solar, if you know what I mean. Another way to describe it is, let's say you've got 500 watts of draw coming out of your e-bike battery as you're going up a hill. So, and you've got, say, 350, or let's call it half, 500, 250 watts of solar coming in. So what it'll do, it'll split the difference between the draw. It'll take the 250 from the solar panels, and it'll take 250 from the battery. So it balances itself out. God, I hope that makes sense. All right, thanks for watching, and stay tuned when I get the proper shrink wrap and I make that a bit more Mickey Mouse in there. I'll show you that at a later date. Just while I've got you here, the Starlink system's working a treat, as is this new battery, by the way. I rode it for about 50 k's the other day. It was a little bit of sunshine, and it just stayed full the whole time. 50 k's of riding on a 25 amp hour 48 volt LifeP04 battery. Why is that? As opposed to lithium ion, which in the past would always slowly incrementally draw, and the battery would go down and down and down. Because you can fast charge a LifeP04 lithium iron phosphate battery a hell of a lot faster than you can lithium ion. So keep that in mind. From my perspective, lithium iron phosphate are a much better chemistry battery than lithium ion could ever be, unless it's for your car, of course, and you can fast charge it, where they can offset the price for a fast charging system. But on an e-bike, why would you bother? I don't even think there is such a thing. Anyway, yes, back to the Starlink. So instead of that 240 watt bloody adapter that you would plug into your inverter in my system, or your inverter in your caravan or whatever when you were mobile, I directly wired it into my battery system because it's a 12 volt battery, and I put a 2-pole or a 2-pin rocker switch in there. And instead of drawing 40 or 50 watts, nearly 100 watts, because my inverter, to get it going is somewhere between 30 to 70 watts. It's about 70 to start it up, and then it goes to about 30 or 40 to maintain it. Plus, then you've got your 40 and 50 for your Starlink stuff. So cancel all that out, and now I've only got 20, 30 watts coming out when I'm using the Starlink. Massive difference, and it's a lot better. One last thing. Also, I bought a 12 volt electric blanket. Works like a charm, mate. I fully recommend them. All right. See ya.